Hey everyone, David Louch here, co-host of the Merged Marketing Podcast.
You're listening to the Merged Marketing Podcast with David Louch and Jason Hunt. This is a show all about unlocking the marketing tactics and secrets behind everyday brands. Each week, we'll bring you expert commentary so that you can make better choices when it comes to growing your business. Thank you for spending time with us. Now let the show begin.
Hey Dave, how you doing?
Good. Why don't you share a little bit of how this show and this company, even Merged Media, came to be?
Absolutely. And first and foremost, I want to say we finally launched this podcast. If anybody out there is following us and our journey on YouTube, watching the Digital Hunter, which is our weekly YouTube episode where we kind of document the journey of our company. You will know that this whole podcast has been a work in progress for some time. And I think anytime when you start a podcast, the reason why it's delayed and takes so long to start is because it's just never top priority on your priority list. It's just there on your priority list. It's just never near the top. And so finally, I'm super happy that we're able to get this going, kick it off. And we've got a ton of amazing guests coming up. And I'm just finally happy to get it going.
Yeah, same. And I think like anything, when you start something new or you want to start something new, obviously there's a little factor of fear there and not knowing what to do or how it all works. And even today we're quite a bit into the podcast now, and we're still learning new things about recording and equipment and things that we need to do to make sure that it works well on our website and all that sort of stuff. So yeah, it definitely took a while, but here we are, happy to get it going.
What's interesting, and I think what our listeners are going to appreciate a lot about this podcast is how different we are and as co-hosts, because there's a lot of podcasts out there. They just have one person. It's the Joe Rogan show, or it's Gary V audio experience or whatever. But on our show, it's a little different. You have two co-hosts, David and myself, and our personalities are very different. If I were to do this on my own, this entire podcast would probably be a shit show. All right. Because, I work off of the cuff. I don't structure very much in my life. And I just kind of go fly by the seat of my pants, where David, on the other hand, is quite the opposite and is very much structured and has, structured questions and an outline and everything is a certain way. So by having a combination of both of these skill sets, I think we're going to be able to produce a pretty awesome podcast.
Absolutely. It's not a common thing, I don't think, that you see. I mean, most of the podcasts that I listen to, there's usually only just one host and the guest. So I wasn't sure how this was going to work out with two co-hosts, but it's been good so far.
Let's even just take, for example, the first couple minutes of this podcast. You asked me a question and I have not addressed that question yet, which was, well, how did this all start?
I was just about to say that.
Right.
Yeah.
And we just went off on a tangent for about 3 or 4 minutes. I think it was a pretty productive 3 or 4 minutes. You might argue with me on that, but I'm going to answer your question now. Okay.
Thank you.
So how did this come to be? How are we sitting at this table with a couple microphones here starting a podcast, and why are we starting a podcast? I'm going to just rewind back to early 2016 when I started my social media agency. I've been in the digital world for a while, working for a boutique digital shop in downtown Toronto. Selling real estate on websites, essentially. So those banner ads that you're probably annoyed with by Google ads and things like that. I used to sell that space like real estate. And from there, having that digital background, evolved to the social media landscape, where I started my social media agency with the help of my brother-in-law. I was a sweat equity behind the business, going door to door, drumming up business, and was able to amount to 100 clients in our first year in business, which was no small feat. But it was a great experience. But because by doing that, I was able to touch every single role in the company, essentially, from content management to customer service, to community management to sales, and everything that you would do at a social media agency. And from there, David came on board shortly after because I needed some structure in the business. And David was able to provide that, somebody to look at the books and take care of a lot of the things that I lacked and I struggled with, and was a huge help there. And from there, our social media agency continued to grow, but we came to a point where, we were actually losing opportunities and losing business at no fault of what we were doing, but really at what we were not able to provide. And, we needed to be more versatile. Just being a social media agency really narrowed your opportunities for doing business, because a lot of the small to medium sized businesses that we work with, they just want to deal with one point person for all of their digital assets. And in our case, we would have business owners that would be dealing with 4 or 5 different people, from their Google AdWords to their website to their SEO to their social. And so it only made sense for us to evolve and merge our business with a locally leading SEO and web design company. That's where we met our business partner, Todd Foster, and it's early 2019 is when we started the merge, and here we are today, a full-service, one-stop shop digital agency, and we have a full team here in-house, and it only made sense for us to think about what the next step is for branding the business, and that's where we are today with the podcast.
Yeah, and what a ride it has been since 2016, 17, and now 2020, where we're Merge Media. We got the podcast. We're one agency, doubled our staff, more services. It's super exciting. So, we've certainly met a lot of interesting people and successful people over the years that we've worked with. And so that's one of the reasons why we wanted to start this podcast, is because we have access to a lot of people that can share their experience, and particularly with marketing, how they marketed their business and grew their business. And it doesn't necessarily have to be through, social media or Google AdWords or a service that we offer. If it was print at the time that they started, cool. Tell us about that story and what really worked. And, is it still working today, or what are you doing today? So we hope that you can learn a lot from the successes and failures that we've had and that some of our guests have had. And we're looking forward to it.
Absolutely. And I think that's the key. This is not just a digital marketing podcast for us to create this to sell the services that we offer. This is strictly to allow people the opportunity to gain some insight into those experienced professionals and where they went right and where they went wrong with their marketing endeavors. And every single episode is going to shed some light on the history and the past and what helped that guest achieve success in their business. We have a slew of great guests that are coming up that are all business owners, CEOs and companies, some pretty big companies as well. And I'm super excited.
Absolutely. And with that, we will go and we'll let you dive into all of the great episodes that follow this. So thank you a lot for listening, and
give us some feedback. Okay. After our episodes, hey, look, where to catch us. You can catch us at Merged Media. Follow our YouTube channel, which we're super active on. Facebook, Twitter is at JHuntOfficial. That's where you can find me. David is a millennial and does not have Twitter.
Twitter's not a thing for me.
TikTok, TikTok.
Yeah, no, Instagram at David Louch. That's where you can get in contact with me. And if you want to reach out to us at the podcast specifically, we do have an email devoted to that, and that's podcast@merged, MERGED.ca.
If you're listening to this episode, there's a good chance that you are a loyal follower of us, and we appreciate that. We could be at episode 300 right now, and you're going back in the archives to listen to episode 1. So we appreciate you for going back and listening to episode 1. And if you can help us with a boost, one thing we ask, give us 5 stars if you like it, and share this podcast with your friends. Dave's giving me the hurry up, Jay. So pass it over to Dave.
That's it.